for this podcast want people to be able to leave with tangible stuff that they can
Mm-hmm.
do. So I took our conversation that we had privately and I dug deep into your website
Mm-hmm.
and in my nerdy little self,
Uh-huh.
I dug up a bunch of tools that I
Mm-hmm.
felt like were super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to call them out, or
Mm-hmm.
you can.
Well, I don't
And
know what you found. I mean, I
okay,
think I have an idea, but I don't.
okay. So the first one was this is all pretty much in your words, was we recognize that all of us are addicted to wanting control. We want to
Mm-hmm.
control everyone and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
my question to you, since there's four of these, or more than four, we have to go kind of quickly. Like, what's your response to that? Like, what's something tangible we can do to try to shut that constant need for control down?
Well, meditation is
There
number
you
one.
go. Cool.
Meditation is
Okay.
the number one. But I also think it's like, um, a big part of that is looking at the fear, because control is a symptom of fear, a deeper fear. It's like what is the fear? Most of us fear everything's going to fall, no one's going to like us. We're going to be rejected. And that often comes back down to
So it's
childhood.
basically
So it's,
for calling out our fears,
yeah,
naming them.
yeah. Naming
Cool.
the landscape.
Okay. The second one is we need to recognize that the only thing we can control is our reaction to our experience.
Hmm.
What
Like,
would be,
well, like you can't, for example, you know, as you mentioned, COVID is happening. Your response is your choice.
okay,
How do you respond to what's happening?
okay.
Right? It's not that you're meant to just sit there, like a rock and not have a response, but notice what comes up inside of you and say, is this serving me?
Right.
If it's not, if there's a real fear of getting sick, am I taking precautions? But I choose, am I choosing to feed that fear? Or am I saying I'm taking precautions and then I've done everything I can do and I have to let go?
So you just
You know?
answered the third one also in that, which is we need to recognize that we're co-creating our human experience with the world and the cosmos. And many times we put our dreams into the world and then we just wait to see what happens, or we're running
Mm-hmm.
around like crazy people. And so you've just touched and answered that one, is that
Yeah.
it's on us too, and the choices
Yeah.
we're making.
Yeah.
Uh,
100%.
and then number four, I see we need to create a relationship with our dream
Mm-hmm.
for our lives, but
Mm-hmm.
we're usually too scared to communicate with that dream and make a relationship with it. So my
Yeah.
question to you is, how do we communicate with that dream?
Meaning, like, often we have this idea of pining or holding out this perfect future. And as we start to imagine ourselves living that future, we may say, like, oh, actually, take someone who has a dream of having a house. And so from the time they're little, maybe they grew up and they were, moving from house to house and they didn't have the house that they wanted. So they hold this idea of a house and they don't let go of that vision that they had when they were 25. But then they get older and they're like, they don't allow themselves to go, maybe I just want to rent. Maybe I don't want need to own a house. Maybe actually what I'm drawn to is design. And I actually, my income levels aren't so that I can own a house and travel and experience different aesthetic environments. So what if I rented and then we're able to travel and experience the idea of design? Because what I actually loved when I was a kid was design. It wasn't the house. It
I
was
see.
as an example.
So it's
That's
like
just an
peeling it,
example.
it's like peeling it back to what the
Yes.
basis of it is.
Yeah, and also negotiating with it, like realizing it may shift. It's like, you know for example, when you were younger, you probably had to focus on career, and then your son was born. You had to negotiate. It happened quickly for
A
you,
hundred percent.
but you negotiated with that
It was
dream. And
probably
then,
happening a lot longer than I thought.
yes, but he showed up and it was like, okay,
Yeah. Game
this
over.
is yeah.
This is what's happening. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't, I mean, I've loved every single minute of it, but were some days where I was like, is this fucking Groundhog Day? Is this
Yeah,
ever gonna end? I think like,
totally.
but the grass is always greener on the other side. Always,
Well, but it
always,
doesn't have to
always.
be. When you start to really do this work, you realize everybody has their lot. Everybody has their lot, right? And when you start to live a life of empathy and compassion, and you realize, first of all, yes, life is inherently unfair. There's no,
Is this the
why do some people have
surrender
it so much
piece that
better?
you talk about?
Yeah,
Because that
yeah,
was going to be my last question in this part is you wrote we have to ask our dream what we can surrender to and what we can let go of and ask ourselves what we can do to actually contribute to a destiny where we have control. And so my question is surrender. And how do
yeah,
you define
yeah,
that?
yeah. Surrender is not getting attached to outcome. So it's this idea of high involvement, low attachment. So you do everything you can do and then you let go.
But is that I mean, I know that like when you say, "Oh my God, I'm definitely going to fail this test," but you've studied for 10,000
Yeah.
hours, it's different than that. You know what I mean? You have to be, how are you honest about that? How do you honestly not care about an outcome? Like through years of meditation?
Well, also because you start to, you look for examples in your life where something showed up that was better than what you expected.
I see. And then you have to just
And
experience that a few times.
yeah. And also with the test thing, it's like, okay, so you've completed the test. Does the worrying actually help? Sometimes there can be attachment, like if I don't worry, I won't do well. That worry is part of my success, but that's not true.